You are on the channel Topical. Today, we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really complex situation, Kevin Spacey. We're looking at the numerous allegations against him, his public and legal fights, and obviously the huge impact all of this had on his career. We've gathered quite a bit of information, really trying to piece together the timeline, the accusations, the court cases. Our aim here is to sort of unpack it all, trying to separate what's verified from what's alleged, and maybe understand the bigger picture, public perception, the media's role, and what happens when someone faces accusations like these. So let's get right into it. Kevin Spacey, for a long time, was a massive star. Can we maybe start with how he got there, his rise?
Sure. Yeah, Spacey really built his foundation in the 80s. He studied at Juilliard, did Broadway, and his stage work got a lot of attention. He actually won a Tony Award in 1991 for Lost in Yonkers. At the same time, he was building up his film career, too. Smaller roles at first, like in See No Evil, Hear No Evil,
Yeah.
Consenting Adults, things like that.
Right, but it feels like the mid-90s was when he really, exploded onto the Hollywood scene, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, his role as Verbal Kint in The Usual Suspects in 95, that was huge. Won him the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. That was definitely a pivotal moment.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then came this string of really successful films. Outbreak, Seven, A Time to Kill, L.A. Confidential, The Negotiator. He was everywhere, showing a lot of range.
And then American Beauty, of course. Best Actor Oscar for that one.
Exactly. And interestingly, he was still doing theater, too. Got another Tony nomination in '99 for The Iceman Cometh. So he kept his foot in both worlds.
It's interesting, though, because after that huge peak, things seemed to cool off a bit in the early 2000s, didn't they? Before House of Cards brought him roaring back. What was going on then?
That's a good point. He was still working, still respected, but maybe not hitting those consistent blockbuster highs of the late 90s. Some films didn't perform as well at the box office. And perhaps the types of roles, those sort of character-driven pieces he excelled at, weren't quite as prevalent for a while. The industry shifts,
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, boom, 2013, House of Cards, he's back on top. But then 2017 happens, and Anthony Rapp makes his allegation. That just changed everything, didn't it? Can you walk us through that initial accusation?
Right. So in October 2017, Anthony Rapp gave an interview to BuzzFeed News. He accused Spacey of making an unwanted sexual advance back in 1986. Rapp was 14 at the time. Spacey was 26. Rapp said Spacey invited him to a party at his apartment. Rapp was the only kid there, basically. Later, he said he was alone with Spacey, who seemed drunk, picked him up, put him on a bed, and kind of lay on top of him, trying to seduce him. Rapp said he managed to get away and leave.
Wow. And Spacey's response to that, well, it didn't exactly help him, did it? That Twitter statement was pretty controversial.
No, it really wasn't well received. He said he didn't remember the encounter, which he described as being 30 years ago, but he offered Rapp an apology for what he called deeply inappropriate drunken behavior, if it happened, as Rapp described. But the part that drew the most fire was him then using the same statement to say he'd had relationships with men throughout his life and was now choosing to live as a gay man.
Right. A lot of people saw that as trying to deflect or conflate the issues.
Exactly. It was widely criticized as an attempt to change the subject, maybe even use his coming out to garner sympathy right when this very serious allegation dropped. It backfired, publicly speaking.
And unfortunately for Spacey, Rapp's story wasn't the end of it. It seemed to open the floodgates, didn't it? What came next?
Yeah, very quickly after Rapp spoke out, others started coming forward. There was Roberto Cavazos, a Mexican actor, who said it was pretty well known that Spacey often targeted younger men under 30. Daniel Beale talked about an incident where Spacey allegedly exposed himself. And the BBC reported on an anonymous man called John, who described Spacey being overly affectionate in the 80s, including allegedly climbing into bed with him uninvited.
So you can see how the narrative started building very quickly at that point.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer number of allegations, even though they varied in nature from making people uncomfortable to alleged groping or exposure, created this really powerful negative public image almost overnight.
And the professional consequences were swift and severe, House of Cards being the biggest example.
Yeah, immediate. Netflix suspended production on the final season almost right away. Then, shortly after, they fired him, terminated his contract, removed him as executive producer.
And they finished the show without him.
They did, but, well, many felt the quality dropped significantly. The ending felt rushed, unsatisfying to a lot of fans. It really showed the massive fallout, not just for Spacey, but for the whole production.
And it wasn't just House of Cards, was it? Other projects got scrapped or changed, too.
No, definitely not. The film Gore, which he starred in and Netflix was going to release, that got completely canceled. And maybe even more famously, he was cut out of Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World after it was filmed. They reshot all his scenes with Christopher Plummer.
I remember that. That was incredible. Did Plummer comment on it?
He did. He called the situation very sad and a shame, but still acknowledged Spacey was a talented actor. It was a really unprecedented move, replacing a lead actor that lead in the game.
And the allegations just kept coming after that initial wave, didn't they?
Yes, more people continued to share their stories over time. Justin Dawes described what he felt was a manipulative encounter when he was a minor. Tony Montana alleged Spacey groped him in a bar. Harry Dreyfuss claimed groping during a script reading. And then Heather Unruh accused Spacey of assaulting her teenage son in Nantucket, which became a legal case we can talk about.
And the Old Vic Theater accusations, too. That seems significant given his long tenure there.
Very significant. Spacey was the artistic director at the Old Vic in London for over a decade, from 2004 to 2015. And reports emerged that at least 20 young men associated with the theater had made allegations related to his time there.
Did the Old Vic investigate that?
They did. They brought in an external law firm. Their investigation found 20 personal accounts of alleged inappropriate conduct by Spacey, mostly from before 2009. However, they also stated that no formal complaints or legal claims had ever been made during his time there. And crucially, the report said they couldn't actually verify the allegations, partly due to the time that had passed. Spacey didn't comment on it.
So no conclusive findings from that internal review.
Essentially, yes. Allegations were recorded, but not verified in a way that led to, say, legal action initiated by the theater itself.
Okay. Amidst all this, Spacey put out those really weird YouTube videos, didn't he? As Frank Underwood. What was that about?
Yeah, those were memorable. He released Let Me Be Frank in December 2018, and then KTWK, which stands for Kill Them With Kindness, in December 2019. He's in character as Frank Underwood from House of Cards. In the first one, he seems to be addressing the accusations indirectly, talking about people rushing to judgment without facts. The second one came after a couple of legal cases were dismissed, and he's like wishing people Merry Christmas and suggesting kindness as a response to negativity.
How did people react to those? Because they felt unsettling.
The reaction was really mixed, but generally negative. Some found him defiant, creepy, even disrespectful to the accusers. Others maybe saw it as his way of trying to communicate using this character he was known for without directly engaging with the specifics. But yeah, the consensus seemed to be they were pretty bizarre and probably didn't help his public image much.
Right. Let's pivot to the legal side then, because there were quite a few actual cases. Can we sort of break those down?
Definitely. It gets a bit complicated because there were several distinct situations. First, maybe just to mention Linda Culkin. She was someone who had stalked Spacey and died. Some early inaccurate reports tried to link her death to the allegations, but that wasn't substantiated, just clarifying that.
Okay, got it. Then the Nantucket case involving Heather Unruh's son. That went to court, right?
It did. That was a criminal charge based on the alleged groping incident in 2016. But the case kind of fell apart during the proceedings. There were issues raised by the defense about deleted text messages from the accuser's phone. The phone itself that apparently went missing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And during his testimony, the accuser admitted to an inaccuracy in his initial police report about the timing. Later, when questioned about the missing phone and deleted texts, he invoked the Fifth Amendment, refusing to testify further on that.
So what happened then?
The prosecutor ended up dropping the charges. The judge had expressed concerns about the evidence handling and the testimony, so the case was dismissed before it even got to a verdict.
Okay. Then there was a civil suit from an anonymous massage therapist.
Yes, filed in 2018. This therapist alleged Spacey forced him to touch his genitals during a massage in 2016. But sadly, the accuser passed away from cancer before the case could really move forward, so that lawsuit was dismissed as well.
And we should probably mention Ari Behn, another accuser who tragically passed away.
Right. Ari Behn, the Norwegian author and former husband of a Norwegian princess, had publicly accused Spacey of groping him under a table at an event in 2007. He died by suicide in 2019. It's important to note, though, he wasn't involved in any active lawsuit against Spacey at the time.
Okay, now the really big civil trial was the one brought by Anthony Rapp, the first accuser. That went all the way to a jury, right?
It did. Rapp sued Spacey in 2020 for battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress, stemming from that alleged 1986 incident. There was initially another anonymous plaintiff, but their claim was dismissed before trial. During the trial in 2022, some inconsistencies came up, like Rapp's description of Spacey's apartment at the time, which the defense argued was inaccurate.
And the outcome?
The judge dismissed the emotional distress claim before it went to the jury, and on the battery claim, the jury found Spacey not liable, so Rapp lost the case.
Not liable. And wasn't there something about legal costs, too?
Yes, afterwards, the judge ordered Rapp to pay a portion of Spacey's legal fees for that case.
Okay. Then there's the whole issue with MRC, the company behind House of Cards. They sued him, too. That sounds like big money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
MRC sued Spacey, arguing his conduct breached his contract and caused them massive losses because they had to fire him, rewrite, and shorten the final season. Initially, an arbitrator agreed with MRC and awarded them almost $31 million.
$31 million.
Yeah, but that got complicated. Later in 2024, it came out that the amount Spacey would actually have to pay was reduced to $1 million.
How did that happen? From 31 down to 1.
It seems it was part of a deal. Reports suggest Spacey agreed to cooperate with MRC as they made an insurance claim. Their claim was apparently based on the idea that Spacey was essentially unavailable for work due to being. Well, the reports used phrasing like, too sick to work, related to seeking treatment.
Ah, so a settlement involving an insurance angle. Very complex.
Very. It highlights the huge financial web tangled up in all of this, beyond just the direct legal findings on the allegations themselves.
And finally, the UK criminal charges. He faced trial over there too, didn't he?
Yes, that was a major trial in London in 2023. He faced multiple counts of sexual assault brought by the Crown Prosecution Service. These related to allegations from several different men, spanning incidents allegedly occurring between 2001 and 2013, including during his time at the Old Vic.
What kind of allegations were involved there?
They included things like groping. One accusation involved drugging and performing a sexual act without consent. Pretty serious charges.
And the result of that trial?
After hearing all the evidence, the jury acquitted him on all charges, found not guilty across the board.
So after all these years, all these legal fights, where does that leave him now? Financially, it sounds like it's taken a massive toll.
It certainly seems so. He recently did an interview with Piers Morgan and was quite emotional. He said he has essentially no money left. His Baltimore home is apparently facing foreclosure because he owes, in his words, many millions in unpaid legal bills.
Wow, many millions.
Yeah, he stated the legal costs have basically wiped him out financially. It paints a picture of the immense cost involved in defending against these kinds of allegations over so many years, regardless of the legal outcomes.
It really is striking, isn't it? You have this huge number of people coming forward with accusations over many years.
Likely significant volume, yes.
But then you look at the legal record, and he hasn't actually been found guilty of any crime. Acquitted in the UK, found not liable in the Rapp civil case, other cases dismissed.
That's the core paradox, isn't it? There's this vast gulf between the sheer number and seriousness of the public accusations, which absolutely fueled a widespread perception of guilt, and the actual results in courts of law. The legal system has specific burdens of proof, rules of evidence. Public opinion operates very differently.
So just to try and wrap our heads around this incredibly complicated story, we've got this actor, once at the very top of his game, who faces this avalanche of serious allegations. His career effectively gets destroyed almost overnight. Yet, legally speaking, he hasn't been convicted of any crime related to these accusations. We've seen numerous accusers, allegations spanning decades, different types of legal cases in different countries with very different results.
Exactly. It's a really stark example of how public accusation, career consequences, and the formal legal process can run on completely separate tracks, sometimes leading to outcomes that seem almost contradictory and leaves a huge impact on everyone involved, no matter the verdict.
Which really leads us to the final question for you listening. When you look at this whole situation, the volume of allegations versus the legal acquittals, what does it tell us about the power of public perception today? You know, in our hyper-connected world, how much does the media shape the narrative? And what does accountability really mean if there aren't criminal convictions? Can or should a reputation and career be undone by accusations alone, even if they don't meet the burden of proof in court? Lots to think about there.